Welcome to the latest This Week's Acca podcast, sponsored by Skybet Acca Freeze. Tom and Joe with you to build our Boxing Day accumulator. Now, we know it's a busy time of year, so as we've explained before, over the festive period, we'll be delivering these shorter form episodes, which deliver our Acca alongside some little explanations behind each pick. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel to ensure that you never miss an episode. And remember to keep it fun. Never bet more you can afford. This podcast is 18 plus. Please gamble responsibly. Quick recap on last week. Joe, you weren't on it, were you? You were getting ready for our big festive Christmas quiz special, which you can still check out on the YouTube channel as well.
Not
As
just
far
that,
as I
mate. I
could
was at
tell,
a
oh
Carol concert as
yes,
well.
you were. Did you enjoy the Carol
More important,
concert?
I did. Yeah, it got me really into the festive spirit. To be able to punt on Boxing Day football. The weekend before Christmas, I always feel like it's a bit of a weird one because you've got people dressed as Santa and stuff going to the footy, and you're like, it's Christmas, but it's not quite. It needs to be the 23rd for me. If it's like 21st, it's just not, don't quite squeeze in for me. It's like you're forcing it.
Is
So
that
we're
why you've got the
properly in.
Santa hat on? Because today is the 23rd. This is a football
Yeah.
related thing. Is this the official opening of the Christmas period?
Yeah, 21st has to squeeze in because of the squashed schedule, but it's just not quite there for me. And I definitely wasn't feeling Christmassy going to watch Barnsley on Saturday when we lost 4-0 at home to Leyton Orient.
No.
So I'm happy to just wipe the slate clean, pretend that the Acca that was one win, one draw, one defeat, treble, wasn't it?
Yes.
Never happened. I just pretend the football never happened on Saturday, other than Liverpool winning 6-3 at Tottenham, which is obviously unbelievable. But everything else, yeah, let's just pretend it's a fresh start.
It's a shame Jake and Jimmy aren't on because they had a real argument about that game at Oakwell, and I'm sure Jimmy would love to bring it up at the earliest possible opportunity. As I said at the start, though, onto this week, we are building the Boxing Day accumulator. That is, of course, Thursday. Whole host of football. It's all on TV, I think. Amazon Prime doing the Premier League, Sky Sports Plus do all the EFL games as well. You could literally watch every single game if you wanted to. Where should we go first? What team should we chuck into our Boxing Day accumulator?
Well, the number one for me when I was looking at the slate was Bournemouth to beat Crystal Palace. I was working on Sunday, so I couldn't. Unfortunately, I don't. I mean, I'm a very law-abiding citizen anyway, but I don't have one
Congratulations.
of the dodgy sticks, so I wasn't able to watch Bournemouth winning 3-0 at Manchester United. But as I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, I was really trying to dig something out to write about Andoni Iraola because it just felt like it was at that point where people is going to start raving about him soon. I still couldn't manage it yesterday, um, but it just feels like it's a matter of time before someone pinches him off Bournemouth. Top five in the Premier League on Christmas Day. They've got the third most expected points. So what that means is, according to expected goals data, their performance levels are the best in the league this season, behind only Liverpool and Arsenal. And it's incredible, really, when you think that he took ages to get his first win, was on the verge of being sacked at the end of last October. Since then, Bournemouth have taken the sixth most points in the Premier League. So over the long term, they're one of the best teams in the division. They're not like little old Bournemouth that we kind of think of them of, that to be battling around at the bottom of the division. And they're just a shade shorter than even money to win at home to Crystal Palace, who are they're a decent team. They're probably better than relegation battlers, but they're no better than mid-table. And they made a fist of it against Arsenal on Saturday. 5-1 at home was probably harsh, but they were just punished because they're not good enough defensively. And Bournemouth will expose them on Saturday. And ultimately, the price is just too good a value to ignore when you consider that Bournemouth are they're a top eight team at least, really, for more than a year now. Um, so it has to be backed really at that price.
Yeah, fully on board with this one. 19 to 20, the price on Bournemouth for a home win over Crystal Palace. I think that's the first pick then of our Boxing Day accumulator. I am going to chuck in another one here. Obviously, we can't just settle on that at 19 to 20. Are we
Like it's
happy
a
enough
single
taking?
though, if you want.
It's a very good single. I'd still be all over that if you weren't too fussed about an Acca. We hope you are, of course. The team I wanted to bring up actually next, and I think a team again who last time we backed them, while it wasn't a successful pick, I think a lot of people had them in their accumulators. Wrexham are at home to Blackpool. The price on this one is evens, depending where you go. So a nice price again on a home side who it's just we seem to say the same thing every single time. They were unfortunate when we backed them the other week. Cambridge managed to get a draw. They take on Blackpool, who, yeah, okay, they have got better, but again, it's Wrexham at home, continue to be one of the best home sides in the entire EFL, and on Boxing Day, you'd imagine it is again another home fixture that they'll fancy winning. So for me, I'm more than happy to go back to Wrexham just on the kind of tried and tested and largely successful formula of taking them to win home games.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Tom. The game they didn't win at home to Cambridge, I'm pretty sure is a stoppage time penalty. That like cost them winning. It was a match that they ought to have won, and that is just going to happen occasionally. But it was another home game that you would expect them to win this one, and it's not dissimilar to the Bournemouth game. It comes down to price, but if you had a team who have won 90% of their home league matches under their current manager over the last 4 years at home to a team who probably going to be upper mid-table come the end of the season in the Premier League, you're getting nowhere near even money on it. So brilliant selection that one.
There we go then. The second pick then for our Boxing Day accumulator, joining Bournemouth for a home win over Crystal Palace. It is Wrexham for a home win over Blackpool. We're just shy of 3 to 1, around 27 to 10 roughly, with a few bookmakers as well. Third selection, where should we go?
Well, we split between a couple which one I'd go to first here, but I feel like I've got to go against Swindon because I've been hating on them for about 18 months now, especially as they screwed us over on Saturday by probably producing one of the best performances they have in that 18-month period. At the same time, one strong performance at home to Grimsby Town is never going to be enough for me to stop going against them if the price is right. So they go to Wimbledon, who are just a consistently good top seven team in League Two. It's 4 to 6 you can get on Wimbledon to beat Swindon. And I'll be like a broken record talking about how poor Swindon have been for a season and a half now. Um, and Wimbledon are just a really good team. They've lost 7 games in League Two this season, and 5 of those 7 defeats have been against the teams that are currently in the top 9. Recently, when they've been coming up against poorer teams in the division, then Morecambe they beat 3-0, Carlisle 4-0, Tranmere 2-0, Harrogate 3-0, Barrow 3-1. So they take care of the poorer teams in the league. They've just come a bit unstuck of late against teams of a similar standard to themselves. So I'd be very happy backing them at home against a side that I think have got a real battle on their hands to stay in the EFL this season.
Yeah, one of the best home sides in the division, Wimbledon, so kind of touched upon there. And it just seems to be a case of back Swindon, well,
To
not back
lose.
them, but yeah, don't back them at home, but at home maybe a bit more caution, but away from home it just seems to be continuity of poor results. And as you say there, Wimbledon seemingly in a good spot. 5.5 to 1 the treble then of Wimbledon, of Wrexham, and of Bournemouth as well. I feel like you have on this podcast. I know you've said something about their opponents, which we'll touch upon shortly. But Salford City are 11 to 8 for a home win over Barrow. And this is a Salford side who I know very early in the season quite dismissive of their chances, but they have been excellent of late, and particularly in home games as well. This is a side who I think have won their last 5 of the last six, is it, or six of the last seven in all competitions in front of their own supporters. Just really good form at the moment for Salford City, and they take on a Barrow side who I'll let you make the point, but since that cup game, and I know you've said it against Chelsea, the season just seems to have fallen off a cliff a little bit for them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, your point on Salford's great. I don't know what happened after you bumped into Carl Robinson in a bar in Manchester,
Yeah,
but
look,
since then, mm,
tactical genius that, I said, look, mate, it's not going well for you here. This was about October time as well. And you look at their results since October and it's just whoosh, it's just absolutely been superb. Um, so,
he saw
I've
something at the
obviously,
bottom of that fifth pint of Guinness that
I've
changed
just,
his life.
I've come over and I've gone, look, mate, just make these little changes here, there, and everything's started to go well. So, I don't want to take all the credit, but, you know, not
But
quite just a
90%.
coincidence. Yeah, I'll take 90% of the credit.
Yeah, and you're spot on with Salford. When we got asked the other day about teams to watch in the second half of the season in League Two, then Salford, who I picked out, feels like they may finally have got a manager that they're happy to let him do his job. So it might not even just be that Carl Robinson's a good manager, but they're just interfering a bit less with him, the owners at that club. Barrow, yeah, they started the season pretty well, and then they went to Chelsea in the League Cup, lost 5-0, and they've quite literally been a relegation team since then. They beat Fleetwood in the last game, but Fleetwood themselves had been on a dreadful run. They sacked Charlie Adam off the back of that result. So one result is kind of not going to be enough to turn it around against the informed team in League Two. Um, but yeah, it's unfortunate for Barrow. It's funny how just popping the balloon in that way can turn your season on its head. It was their first win since the 5th of October, that win against Fleetwood. So they've still got a hell of a long way to go if they're going to be able to start getting their way back up the table. But Salford, I really do like the look of them. You talk about the tactical genius, and I know we joke a bit, but I think Carl Robinson's kind of worked out a way to get his best players in the 11 more consistently, which was a real problem for him in the start of the season. And they've turned draws into wins. It's as simple as that, really. So definitely a team to watch out for. 11 to 8 just looks like a massive price. One of the bets in the EFL for Boxing Day.
That is a massive price, and by adding it to our accumulator, we've got a nice price for Boxing Day. I think we're settled on those four teams.
Yeah, I really like the look of it.
There we go then. Our Boxing Day accumulator is as follows. We are taking Bournemouth to beat Crystal Palace. We have Wrexham to beat Blackpool, Wimbledon to beat Swindon, and as we discussed there, it is Salford to beat Barrow. That fourfold around the 14 to 1 marker. Remember to keep it fun, particularly over this festive period with a lot of sport on. Never bet more you can afford, and please gamble responsibly. Head over to sportinglife.com/football. You'll be able to find the article and the link to back that at an enhanced price. And if you haven't already, please follow, rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your chosen podcast provider. We will be back for the weekend fixtures with an episode like this on Friday.